Hey everybody, I'm Bede, aka The Terrible Australian, and welcome to the 5th edition of my 2013 MIFF video reviews. For this one, I'm going to be reviewing the films The Spectacular Now and A Hijacking. So let's get right into it. Starting off with The Spectacular Now, I got my little program here so I can read what the plot summaries of these films are about. The Spectacular Now. For Sutter, a charming high school senior and a budding alcoholic, the now is all that matters. It is where he can live in the moment and be the life of the party. But after a post-breakup bender, he meets shy Amy, and the pair forms an unlikely bond. And as Sutter pines for his ex and searches for an estranged father. Well, that's sort of a little sample of the plot in the movie. There's a bit more to it in the actual film, but that's sort of the little rundown of the plot. But I have to say, I really like this film. I thought it was a very, very honest, very raw, and beautifully well made teen drama romance. And I have to say, this would make actually a great double feature with one of my favorite films from last year, another teen drama, The Perks of Being a Wallflower. I think Perks is a bit more better than this one, but at the same time, I think The Spectacular Now is actually still a really good film in its own right, and it definitely reminded me a lot of the sort of like the great sort of teen films that John Hughes and even Cameron Crowe made like earlier in their careers, and that's sort of like that sort of Say Anything, Breakfast Club, and it's just so beautifully made. And I love the sort of, it doesn't really succumb to the cliches of the genre. It tries to sort of avoid those elements, but when the film has to, it sort of does it in a way that feels organic to the story. But I love this. Everything feels authentic. The way when it comes to both the characters and the story, and it really helps that the film has a great cast on hand. Miles Teller and Shailene Woodley, who play Sutter and Amy. They're both terrific. They're they both give really great performances, and they have a really good chemistry with each other, and I just love that. And also, Miles Teller's character of Sutter, he's a very interesting character because he's basically he's an alcoholic basically, but he's sort of, in a way, he's a character you really don't want to in a way his character is unlikable, but at the same time Miles brings these sort of touches to his character that at the same time, even though he's doing these really unlikable things, but he brings a lot of humor and humanity to his character, and it sort of makes him more well-rounded. And I thought that's, and you actually, in some ways, you do like him. You find him likable, even though, you know, he's, like I said, an alcoholic. And Shailene Woodley, she brings a sort of a naive, sweet innocence to Amy that I really liked, and she just had and a naturalism as well to the role, and she just does a pitch perfect job. They're both terrific together. And also the supporting cast, which has Brie Larson, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who everyone knows I'm a huge fan of, Kyle Chandler and Jennifer Jason Leigh are all really good in their roles. And even though they don't have as much screen time as I initially thought, but all of them make the most of their roles, and they have some really great scenes together. But it really is Miles Teller and Shailene Woodley's role, and the film's director, who James, I'm probably going to pronounce his last name wrong, so forgive me, James Ponsoldt. I think that's how. I'm probably wrong. I'm sorry for the name pronunciation. He does a really great job with his direction, and it helps that he has a really great script from the writers of one of my favorite films from a few years ago, 500 Days of Summer. And the script is so beautifully written, and Ponsoldt's direction is beautifully handled. The film has a great soundtrack, and It has a lot of heart, and it has some really an emotional edge to it that gives the film a bit more weight to it. And I thought it was great. It's such a it's a great film, and it's a great teen film. And if you do have a chance to see it, definitely check it out. It's worth it. And like I said, when it comes out on DVD and Blu-ray, definitely do it as a double feature with perks of being the of a sorry with the perks of being a wallflower, because I think because they do match well to each other, and definitely check it out. If I had to rate this film, I'd definitely give it a 4 out of 5. It's definitely deserves that rating. Now on to my next film, which is the Danish film A Hijacking, which is about, by the way, Tobias Lindholm, who was the co-writer of one of probably my favorite film from MIFF last year, The Hunt, settles into his second stint behind the camera in taunt style, crafting an intelligent, intricate thriller ripped from the headlines. Foregoing sensationalist action in favor of a tense realism, he chronicles the capture of a Danish freighter by Somali pirates. Now, when I read I've heard about this film for a bit of a while now, and the fact that it was a film about Somali pirates actually did have my interest, and I was definitely worth checking it out. I assume it would be a very intense and very gripping film. Like, it is still a gripping film. It wasn't as intense as I thought it was going to be, but it was still a gripping film nonetheless. And I guess the main reason why I kind of was taken aback by this film, and it wasn't how I expected, was the fact that it's very un-Hollywood. It doesn't Hollywoodize its story as well. It sort of does it in a very grounded, very realistic approach to this type of subject, and well, it's sort of done in a sort of doco style, not sort of crazy Paul Greengrass style, but it feels very real and very authentic, and I think it works extremely well to the film. I think if you're going in thinking it's going to be like some intense action thriller or whatever, you're going to be very disappointed. But on its own terms, it's really good. I thought it was a really good film, and that in some ways did things that I didn't expect. But it's really like I said, what really made me appreciate the film was the realism of the story. Like I assumed like people that have been captured or been held ransom by Somali pirates, this would be the closest thing I would imagine. Like, even though it's never happened to me, and I don't know anyone who this has happened to, I think the film, I assume, it feels very authentic. Like, you get that sense that it has this very authentic vibe, and it wants to approach the story in a very realistic way, and that doesn't, in a way that doesn't Hollywoodize its story in a way. And like, I know I'm repeating myself when I say that, but that's what sort of the main thing that made me really like the film. And it is very well written. Tobias Lindholm, he does a really good job on both the scripting front and as well as his direction. He does a good job there, and also the performances are really good. But the two, of course, that stand out, and these are sort of the two major roles in the film, were two actors. One in which is Johan Philip Asbeck. I'm probably pronouncing his name wrong. He plays one of the captors of the Somali pirates in the film, and he did a really good job. You sort of see his deterioration of his character over the course of the film, because once him and his fellow crew members get captured, and you see how they're being pretty much held for ransom for upon days, upon weeks, and even months. You see the deterioration of his character, and as well the surroundings and all his fellow crew members. And also, and another actor who did really well is an actor by the name of Soren Morling. I'm probably pronouncing this name wrong, so forgive me. He plays sort of one of the head people at the company that owns the freighter that's been taking over, and he gives a really compelling performance as well. And but they're sort of really those two actors are sort of the main drive of the film, um, and they're both great. And there's a couple other sort of really good supporting performances in the film as well. And yeah, it's just a really gripping film that I was very engaged by, and I would definitely suggest everyone check this one out as well. If I had to rate this one, I'd give this one also a 4 out of 5 as well. It's really good. Well, that's the end of my 5th edition of my MIFF video reviews. Keep a lookout very soon for my 6th edition, in which I'm going to be talking about the Chinese film A Touch of Sin, and as well as the Aussie end of the world drama These Final Hours. So keep a lookout for those two, and I'll see you very soon. See you, everyone.